I'll just fill like so. Alright, so this is the base that I have for my color schemes, and I'll just add whoops, secondary stripes. I'm going to go to my eyedropper, sample that blue again, use my rectangle marquee, and I'm going to add some stripes to the propeller. So I'll just go in here, go to the tips, just fill that, Control D, Control T, and I'm rotating this a little bit because the propellers are a little rotated, or yeah, I probably should just rotate this here and see what result that gives me. If I want to add more details to this, I'm just going to duplicate that layer, move it down, Control T, scale it, and that looks a little better. And I'll just turn off my UV template right now so that we can see how this looks. So I'm going to go File, Save As, Targa. I can save this off as a PSD if I wanted to, and since I don't have an alpha channel on this, I'll just do that, and I'll just call this MCO2 Diffuse PSD. Jump back into 3ds Max, close this for right now, go to my material editor, click on a new shader, diffuse option box, bitmap, grab my map channel 2 diffuse PSD, and I'm going to just collapse layers like so. Now when I apply it to the model, click on show map and viewport, you'll see that the UVs are all over the place. And in some locations they're fine, but in other areas it really isn't the pattern that we set up. And the reason is because our map channel is set to 2 here, but for the map itself it's set to 1. So I need to go and change the map channel to 2 like so, and then the texture will line up based on that setting. So now this looks a lot better, and I mean, we can open up our material editor again, click on go to parent, and I'll just crank up my self-illumination to 100%. And this is what I use as a guide for me to figure out my texturing. So once I've set this up, I'll just click on the render settings, and for me I'm just going to make this larger because the render is larger, and I'll set it to like, yeah, we'll just try 800 by 600. Render that, and you'll see that it's a little quirky in some locations. I mean, it really doesn't have any depth, it's just a series of flat colors, and this is why we need to add so much other texture to it. But the thing that we want to look at is look for seams that sort of stand out. And the thing that you should notice is that we really don't have any major seams that stand out. Is that probably this face right here probably should be gray if I'm going to do that, or do the theme that I have right now. So just this face here should be gray. And the windows definitely should be raised up. But other than that, we have a solid base. There's a little looseness right there, but I should be able to fix that. Let me just check the propellers. Probably not going to see them. Yeah, there we go. There is a texture seam based on the projection because the propellers are a little off, but most likely we're probably not going to see that, so it's something that I can fix a little later. So that's what we're looking for, is we have this, it looks pretty good. And we can take this now a little further. I'll mess with these UVs later on as far as the propeller goes, but move in the windows and the window glass, is that they're fine in this location, but here they need to be moved. So I'm going to press V to go to my move tool, and then I'm just going to push this up. And did I make the glass in the wrong layer? Alright, it's only grabbing the window itself, it's not grabbing the glass. So I'm just going to move it up like so. And then I'll go to the glass layer, Control D, oops, marquee selection, the glass, press V. And now I just move this up. And I'm just using the arrow key to move this up at 1 pixel at a time rather than trying to move it physically with my selection. And then I'll go Control, oops. And the reason I have to do this is because I have 2 different areas, is I need to be careful that I don't move the wrong thing. So now I'm just going to move this to the left, or move it forward. Like so. Go to my glass layer. Oops. Again, select V. Alright, so that's better. Alright, so now, like I said, we have the base down. There was the one area that I said I should fix. It looks like it's this face here, so I'm just going to go down to my stripes. I'm going to use my eyedropper to sample the gray, and then just do something like that, fill that, and we can check this out. So I'll turn off the UV template. Since it is a PSD, I'll just save it, and then jump back into 3ds Max. You'll see that the window's raised up, and then also this is now fixed. Alright, so this looks better. I mean, the windows do look crude. I'll admit that. But I'm just trying to get a base. I mean, you might find later on that the windows just don't fit at all, and we can strip them off. The front windshield should work, but the side windows might not look right. So now I have this set, and I'm going to start adding some details. And actually, I'll call this folds. And I call it folds because of the way that the metal itself typically will fold up, and it's not just one seamless piece of fiberglass or one seamless piece of metal, it's a series of panels. So I just call this folds. And what I'll do here is I can use either the pen tool or the polygon lasso. It's completely up to you. And alright, so this is the back of the wing, this is the front of the wing, and I'm just gonna go in here and create a section like this, and I'm gonna fill my path with my foreground color. And I'll just delete the path. And then I'll go and I'll definitely add some more of these panels. The one thing that I try not to do is having any of the sections touch each other. So you can see that there's some separation between these sections. And they don't all have to be the same distance. So close that, and I just want to straighten this out a little bit, so I'm going to go to my direct selection tool so I can grab that point, just move it like so, fill path, delete path, And you may question like the color that I'm using because I am using the similar gray. Don't worry about that. The area that I need to be careful of is going to be the back of the plane right here, because it is going to cause me problems. And I'll just try to add a little door. And the reason I said this is going to cause me problems is that there's going to be some stretching. Path. Alright, so now that I have those set, I'm going to set my fill value down to 100%, or down to 0. Then I'm going to go in and add a bevel and emboss, like so. I'm going to set my direction to down. I'm going to change my type, and I'm going to mess around with this as far as figuring out what's the correct type. Alright, so I'm going to try pillow emboss here. I'm going to set my chisel, or my technique to chisel hard. I'll just lower my depth here to like 50% for right now. My size really doesn't need to be extreme like so. It's just going to be like 3 or 5 pixels, so it's really subtle. And the soften, you can see the larger you make it, the softer it gets. So I'll just crank this down a little bit so it's thinner. The other part is that when I do this, I want to use my I want to have my global light disabled. All right. And the way that I usually do this is I try to set the global light to be about 90 degrees, so it's basically straight up, and then I can mess with the altitude as far as the angle. The other thing, I mean, this should work here without a problem. The other thing I mess with is the gloss contour. So I'll just click on this list here, oops, right here, and I'll just take a look to see at the different results. And clearly there are some ones that really don't work. And I mean, it looks like the default one works the best. The other thing is the highlight. I'm going to set that to 100% for the screen. But for the shadow type, instead of setting this to black like it is, so I'm going to sample the blue. And then have that set to multiply. And this gives me a better shadow so the texture itself doesn't become muddy. So that looks pretty good. I could do other things to this, but this should work for the time being. Now if I turn my UV template off, we had some added detail. And I can now save this PSD and jump back into 3ds Max to take a look at this. And I'll just turn off F4. And when we take a render, you'll see that there's some details now for where the door is. And then also when I rotate around and take a look at the wings, is I have some more details.